Okay, hello and good morning, everyone. My name is Erudino Llano. I am part of the E2Driver community, and I would like to thank you, all of you, for attending to this event that is organized in the context of the Sustainable Energy Week and is organized by 7 Horizon 2020 projects with the fund of the European Commission. These projects are DSME, E2Driver, Speeder, AAA, ICE, SMM Power, and Innoveas. Now I will try to explain the main reasons why it's important this session and why it's important the projects we are doing. So first of all, I would like to highlight that the energy efficiency is one of the most important pillars that the European Union is using in order to achieve their objectives in terms of climate change. And on the other hand, we have to take into account that the energy efficiency is one of the key points in order to achieve more competitive companies. So we have to take into account that these all projects are focused on small and medium enterprises, and in this respect, the small and medium enterprises have a great potential in terms of energy efficiency if they are able to overcome different structural, market, and financial barriers. The objective of this session will be to provide guidelines and good practices to implement energy efficiency solutions and facilitate energy transition. And for that, we will go through three main parts. We will address barriers and opportunities in implementing solutions. We will also consider best practices and case studies, such as training tools, etc. And finally, we will also consider the different policies that is currently working in European level. The event will be divided mainly in 5 sections. First, I will present the different projects. As I said before, my name is Erudino Llano, and I'm from the E2Driver project. Next, Ivana Rulgil from the ESME and IC project will explain the part of the engagement of stakeholders. We will continue with the implementation of energy efficiency in small and medium enterprises, which will be explained by Mara Corbello from Innoveas project. And Patrick Lyons will explain the part of policies related with energy efficiency in Europe, focus on industry and small and medium enterprises and way to improve it. We will close the session with a roundtable that will be moderated by Grigoris Papagiannis from SMM Power project. We also will count with the participation of Philippos Dimitrios Mexis from AAA in case we will need input from this project. So I will explain the different projects that is participating in this event. And first of all, I would like to highlight that all these projects are totally focused on energy efficiency and also in small and medium enterprises. So regarding the ESME project, taking into account the specific barriers of the small and medium enterprises in all the points of the energy efficiency, this project is trying to enable companies to manage the energy transition. Also, they are supporting different national authorities by providing guidelines, proposals, and recommendations for implement the European, policies. Also, they are trying to create an approach, a DSME approach, that could be used by national authorities in order to implement these policies. The E2Driver project is a project that is totally focused on automotive sector. We are developing a collaborative cooperative training platform, and we are creating customized training, totally considering needs and interests from the companies. We are training 40 companies in Spain, France, Italy, and Germany. IC project is totally focused in the cold change of food and beverage sector, and they are designing a tool to support the decision maker process and try to promote and facilitate investment of these measures that could be identified in these tools. They are also creating capacity building programs and different communities. The Innoveas project is focused on construction, chemical, and food sector. They are developing services in order to increase awareness and skills connected with energy efficiency, and also they are considering different non-technical barriers. SMM project is helping companies in energy audits and implement their proposals. They are training 720 experts and at least 800 SMM employees. Speeder project is a project that is focusing on small and medium enterprises. And is facilitating the implementation of energy audits and also energy efficiencies measures. AAA project is a project that is focused on aspect about investment and is trying to make energy efficiency investments more transparent, predictable, and attractive for investors and financiers in project developers. Okay, so now that you know us a little bit more, we would like to know you a little bit more as well. And for that reason, now in the screen will appear a poll where you could say where are you working currently, and therefore we will know if you provide for small and medium enterprises, national associations, or other entities. Okay, maybe we could see the results. Okay, so we can see that small and medium enterprises are highly represented, and also we have the participation of different associations, large companies, European institutions, and public administration at national and regional level. Okay, so now is the time for Ivana, who will explain the part of the engagement of stakeholders. So Ivana, thank you. The floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us for this event. My name is Ivana, as I was announced previously, and I work as energy and climate expert in Institute for European Energy and Climate Policy. And I'm also representing in this event ICC project, and I'm also a coordinator of DESME project. I'm going to talk a bit about the aspect that sometimes is not taken enough into consideration, and for all of our projects, we are considering it crucial for the decision-making processes and for the results that we are presenting. And that is how we are using different interactions with the stakeholders. And by that, I will explain later on what we mean by stakeholders. To improve our results, to announce our results, to spread them, upscale them, and so on. So the importance of interaction and cooperation are the topic of my presentation. For the implementation of measures in small and medium enterprises, and of course for the promotion of the measures. So first, let's start from the answer to the question why. So why are we using these interactions with the stakeholders to better our projects? And I've tried to put it into 3 different categories. First of which, I guess we kind of intuitively find it as very important, and this is to receive advice, support, and help from different groups of stakeholders. And you can see here in this bullet points the examples from our projects for which activities we are using the advice, support, and the help from different stakeholder groups. For example, most of the projects are having a kind of a need and expectation questionnaire or interviews or whatever the form of interaction is to tailor the project activities, to adjust the project activities not only to the needs of the small and medium enterprises or any other stakeholder group, but also to adjust it to their capacities so that they are working on our project efficiently, not losing time that small and medium enterprises are usually lacking, not using finances that some small and medium enterprises are sometimes lacking. So to tailor the activities that we are working on to the exact needs of every of the project and every of the stakeholder that we are interacting with. Then also the input to identify the risks that hinder the implementation. Are sometimes also, although most of us have been experienced with implementing measures in small and medium enterprises, the times are changing, the activities are changing, the sectors are different among each other. So there are specific risks for every of the implementation of the energy efficiency investment. So that is something that we are identifying in the cooperation with the stakeholders. Also, which is very, very important, review and feedback on what we are producing. So we are producing different kinds of deliverables, reports, guidelines, tools, databases, everything that is to be used by small and medium enterprises. But then we are sure that we are doing it most professionally that we can, but it is always welcomed that it's also reviewed and the feedback is received from who are the participants from outside our project. So even it is either through our advisory boards, which we usually do have, or through the cooperation with other projects, or through other means of review and feedback. Also, we are trying to provide real project ideas. When we are working, we want to implement our work in the real framework, real project ideas, not only like to create theoretical guidelines. And of course, I think very crucial is to identify the policy obstacles, but also administrative obstacles, which is and you are for sure, if you are working in small and medium enterprise, you will recognize the administrative and policy obstacles are one of the problems that the SMEs are facing in implementing energy efficiency projects. Other than this advice and support, we are also using this interaction to create engagement. So to create this kind of a network among the projects and network among all the stakeholders that we have identified. With that, you will later on, where I'm mentioning what are all the stakeholders, you will see that we are interacting a lot with the associations, chambers, those who are actually created to kind of enable the interaction. And with this, we are trying to be efficient. So not to repeat on what has already been done, not to try to create similar results in different projects, but to cooperate, to have a very strong network and to be able to create synergies among what is produced in different projects. And also, I think the very important reason to engage stakeholder is to create a message, so to share the message and to upscale what we are doing. You will see that we've involved a lot of SMEs and a lot of people in this project, but it's just a pilot. You can never target all the all the SMEs, of course. So the increase of awareness, participation, organization of events and webinars, and everything where the stakeholders are presented, like the event today, is very much relevant for the ideas that we produced through the projects to be shared so that they can be further on implemented. Who are we targeting? So who are the people we are cooperating with? So first and foremost, of course, target sector companies. This in some cases is very, you can see it very straightforward from the project purpose, from the project objective, like our colleague partners from E2 Driver or ICCEE, which are very much sectorally focused. And this is sometimes very efficient from the perspective of trainings and cooperation. But for some projects, the issues that SMEs are facing are very similar in different sectors. So we are trying to target the different sector companies, also based on their energy consumption, based on their similar problems they are facing and so on. And these are our crucial stakeholders. Other than that, as I said previously, we are cooperating a lot with intermediary organization, with showing respect of what has already been created as a network of connections, not trying to, sometimes it would not be efficient to create additional connections to those which are already very high efficient in cooperation. So we are using the connections, the networks, the knowledge of the industrial and trade associations, smart city portals, chambers, and so on, which are working with small and medium enterprises on the topic of energy efficiency. Then, of course, experts. You know already that in small and medium enterprises, the issue with capacities could be very crucial as a problem in implementing energy efficiency. So from small and medium enterprises are focused on their core activity, and they're very often lack human resources, even if they are able to provide, to have financial resources or to gain financial resources, they can be blocked by the lack of capacities inside the organization and inside the company, and mainly because they are very much focused on what they are doing, on their core activity, and employing a specialist to work only on energy issues would create much more like a burden to the company. So we are cooperating a lot with auditors, with energy experts, energy managers, environmental managers in companies who are often also taking a role of the energy managers or are implementing or working with all these ISO standards, so also the energy related standards, but also then as through the advisory boards or through cooperation with researchers and academia in business and the techno-economic field who are helping us create better documents, better results for the small and medium enterprises. But also, of course, policymakers, and by that I mean on all the levels, because as I said in the beginning, administrative issues, policy issues, implementation of different regulatory framework which would help small and medium enterprises is crucial. So that's why we are cooperating a lot with the policymakers, so that the ideas, the results that we produce are also implemented in the regulatory framework in how much is that is possible. So of course, and then we come to the market actors, and these are the ones that are providing finances or help to the enterprises in the energy efficiency project development and implementation. And by that I mean, of course, banks, but also energy service companies who are providing both financial and technology and technical and project help, but also consultancies. And there you can see there are other actors that might not be relevant for all the SMEs, but are for some, like for example, notaries, property valuers, and so on. And of course, as you can see today, other projects financed by the EC, and that's why the reason for that is, of course, to be, as I mentioned earlier, as efficient as possible, so that we as projects are using our, let's say, time and money to create as good results as we are able to create. So the best that we are able to create, of course. How are we involving stakeholders? The stakeholders are involved to different channels. This might be very like, you know, this levels of engagement. So some of the levels of engagement are only informative. Some are, of course, co-creation, cooperation, and some are complete engagement, which we are using in oral projects in a different ways. But either our project stakeholders are informed about what we are doing through official channels. This might be websites, newsletters, LinkedIn groups, or other social networks. We are also creating a lot of publications online and platforms and portals where the results also can be reached. Of course, fairs, workshops, conferences, we would all prefer if we would have a bit more of an in-person fairs where we can talk a bit more on what we are doing. But anyhow, any share of knowledge and work is very relevant to us. For this cooperation part, so the co-creation part, we are also doing a lot of meetings with stakeholder and entities, so the national authorities, the local authorities, EU authorities, depending on the project. Also consultations, which I mentioned earlier, to create trainings, to create programs, to check if what we've done is good enough, is relevant for the small and medium enterprises. Of course, a lot of interviews and surveys for data gathering for the platforms, for the tools that we are developing, but also for the, as said, for the trainings, so that we can create learning materials and trainings that are relevant for the specific small and medium enterprises. And of course, dissemination activities, presentations to raise awareness of the importance and more and more important status of energy efficiency in companies. So you can see here the examples from our projects in the bullet points, like the definition of new European Alliance for Energy Audit in small and medium enterprises, the Automotive National Association per demo country, a network for the match of demand and offer for improving energy efficiency chain, free editions of energy courses in 8 countries, or MNT and MLV tools developed within a project, use of the energy management platform, so different computerized decision support tools, knowledge databases, and so on, and also the companies that are undergoing an energy audit or an energy management system, and so on. So these are the types of involvement. So I guess now my colleague will start a poll, because the idea of the poll in this point is for you to help us decide or see, or according to your expertise, which capacity building action would gather the most interest. Do you think that that stakeholders prefer e-learning or trainings, or maybe workshops, which are more, let's say, interactive and more to the point of their concrete problem, sometimes bilateral meetings or interviews for knowledge sharing, educational materials so that they can use it on their own without the, let's say, need to be in a certain place in a certain time, which sometimes is a problem if you are a person working on completely different or topic in a small and medium enterprise, or you're very much busy. IT tools, which are the databases, the tools for energy management, the tools for M&B, and so on, which you see we've developed, or the databases which can help with the results or the ideas with from the other projects. So these are the, for example, not all, but few topics, few ways that we are involving stakeholders in capacity buildings, and the poll is asking you which you think is most relevant from your experience. So I think we can show the results later on and continue with the presentation. So, well, I wanted to also tell you a bit about the number of training participants. It's not a whole number, it's not a total number, because every of the project is involving at the end much more people that have been identified in the beginning, because there is a lot of interest, or it's shown that the needs from a specific companies are bigger and so on. But only these 5 projects, you can see that we are targeting in trainings more than 5,000 people. And by that, it's also interesting to know that this is the, as I mentioned earlier, networking kind of work. So this is the cooperation kind of work. So even if we are targeting 5,000 representatives of companies or representatives of these associations or policymakers and so on, the outreach is much higher to all the employees. And especially if we are doing, like in some projects, you will see training of the trainers, or training of the whole companies, or training of the decision makers, which is very much relevant, and where the number of this piloting of what we are doing is much higher. So we are counting a lot on the stakeholder involvement for the outreach to kind of go broader than this direct involvement of stakeholders in trainings. So now what we do when we receive some inputs from the stakeholders, what we do with those inputs, I'm now not talking about the what we give, let's say, to stakeholders as a capacity building activity, but what we receive as the inputs of interactions and co-creations, and how we are using it in a specific project. These are just like small examples, because we are of course interacting and doing much more. But for example, in DESME, we have identified challenges in cooperation with the national authorities and key stakeholders. What are the challenges from the perspective of policies in small and medium enterprises? In IntoDriver, different surveys and interviews are performed, and they are also implemented in the content of the courses. In ICE, the stakeholder input contributes to the definition of case studies. In Innoveas, the evaluations are changing the way the trainings are implemented. In SME Empower, there is a lot of information to conduct energy checks. In Speedia, the surveys are being used to inform the development of the Speedia concept. And in AAA, you will see a lot of ideas here. The results are included in briefing notes, in the report of risk, on e-financing, and so on. And as I think the last point, just to kind of conclude this, that we see the long-term effects of involvement, which is, as mentioned earlier, so networking, the communication, the upscaling, as I mentioned, the spread of it, the saliency, so we are giving strength to what we are doing by involving experts, the acceptance in the community, and of course, as the last but not the least, institutionalization, so making all what we are doing in the policy framework and part of the policy framework and regulation. And thanks a lot for your attention. If you have any questions or if you want to discuss, please let me know. And these are the results. And I see most of us prefer workshops, like hands-on work. So I would agree with you on that one. Thanks a lot for your opinion.
Thank you, Ivana. Now is the time for Mara, who will explain the part about the implementation of energy efficiency in small and medium enterprises. Mara, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you. You should listen, you should hear me. I am Mara Corbella, and I'm here representing the Innovias project. Today, I am talking about the implementation of energy efficiency measures in small and medium-sized enterprises, and how the sister projects have developed common approaches and strategies to overcome the barriers that we will discuss in a few moments. So first of all, we have to underline that all the projects have conducted an analysis and the context research in order to understand which are the main barriers that hinder often the adoption of energy efficient solutions in SMEs in different industrial fields. What we have found out is that there is not a single barrier that hinder the adoption of these measures and these solutions, but instead we have to talk about multiple barriers which at the same time limit the action of the entrepreneurs and of SMEs. So when discussing how to overcome these barriers, we have to keep this in mind. So after the first analysis conducted at the beginning of the project, we have divided the main barriers into 3 categories. So financial, competencies and awareness, and regulations. When we talk about the financial barriers, we refer basically to low availability of capital, high rate of investments for the SMEs when adopting energy efficiency measures, long payback time, meaning that the SMEs will not be able to see in the immediate term the payback, so the outcomes of this investment, and the low financial profitability of these interventions. Instead, when we talk about the competencies and awareness barriers, we talk about the fact that almost all the SMEs have divergent priorities, different perceptions of risk, and different motivations and level of interest in intervening towards energy efficiency inside the company. Often we have problems linked to the lack of internal technical competencies and external technical support for the SMEs. And usually we also have a low level of awareness and proactivity in this case. When we talk about barriers linked to norms and regulations, we are talking about the fact that there is a lack of standardization in the indicators and in the way the consumptions are calculated because of a lack of common available energy performance indicators. And this is causing differences and a high number of regulations varying from local context and regional context, and of course between countries. So starting from these first analysis and from the results obtained, all the projects have developed approaches and strategies to support and help the SMEs to overcome these barriers. We will see that the approaches are different, but all the projects and all the partners of the consortiums have developed tools and training and awareness programs. So this is, of course, a common point. The strategies can be divided into 2 categories. In the first one, we have strategies that have a short-term impact. So, for instance, as already said by Ivana, events to raise the awareness of the public, to disseminate information linked with the project activities at national and international level. As already said, capacity building programs have been developed in all the projects with the aim of increasing the skills and competencies of the employees, so the internal members of the enterprises. Then another relevant point is to stress and underline that the benefits of these investments and interventions are not only linked with the financial aspects, but instead with the new market possibilities, new opportunities linked to the concept of green reputation and so on. And of course, an updated database of best practices which have been developed and is available for the future implementation and user. Then the second category is linked with the strategies and the approaches that have a long-term impact. So part of these strategies will be implemented in the last phases of the project and also after the end of it. So relevant is to draft and then address to public institutions policy frameworks or new market architectures. So basically legislative and normative recommendations. Then fundamental is to create and implement wide and strong networks between SMEs, but not only SMEs, also all the stakeholders and actors that can have a role in the process of energy transition. As already said, fundamental is to spread information and to raise the awareness of the public on new concepts, like the fact that this process of energy transition, also in the industrial field, is strictly linked with the fight to climate change. And then to support the SMEs in this process, using the tools developed by the project, the capacity building programs, and supporting them also through the creation of these networks. And for instance, we can see in some of the projects have been drafted the structure of new alliances for this purpose. These are very quickly some of the indicators that we could use to understand the effectiveness and success of the projects in overcoming these barriers, at least for the duration of the projects, of course. So on the left, you have the indicators linked with the project activities in general, and on the right, the indicators strictly linked with the training activities. So for instance, on the left, we have the number of stakeholders involved, the number of companies involved in the pilot studies, the number of tools developed to help SMEs to track and monitor the energy consumptions and to target this consumption with the new strategies and approaches. And on the right, you can see, for instance, the number of SMEs, workers, entrepreneurs involved in the trainings and how they evaluated the programs implemented. So just in conclusion, I would like to stress some of the most relevant takeovers and lessons learned that we have obtained by sharing with the other projects, with the sister projects, our experiences during the implementation of the project. So first of all, as already said, very relevant is the drafting and addressing of policy recommendations after the end of the project. Another aspect linked with the end conclusion of the project is the fact that we have been creating tools, drafting programs for training and awareness raising, but we have to consider and to develop a sustainability plan in order to allow other actors and stakeholders in the future to implement these tools and materials. Also linked with this aspect is the idea of creating a common platform where to share materials, contents, tools, best cases, experiences, and to make all of these materials available also in the future. A relevant aspect that we have discovered during our research is the fact that we have to shift the focus and to underline this also for the companies from the financial benefits to the benefits that are linked with the concept of green culture. In this regard, the energy auditor has a fundamental role because he has the power to lead and support companies towards a more green culture. And also the big companies, as we are talking about SMEs in this case, the big companies can play a role in this transition because they can encourage SMEs and demonstrate them the benefits, not only the financial ones, in adopting these energy efficiency measures. And that finally, as already said, the focus must be shifted not only on the single company, but on the whole supply chain, because as we already know, we are in a period, in a time in which everything is connected. So for the company, the decisions taken by the company have an impact also on the whole supply chain, on other companies, on big companies, on stakeholders, and so on. So that's all. Thank you. And we have a short poll just to understand. Yes. The question is, in your experience and after listening to my presentation, what do you believe is the most barrier that could hinder the adoption of these energy efficiency measures for SMEs? Of course, as said at the beginning of the presentation, we cannot talk about only one barrier, but it's interesting to understand which one for you is the most relevant and, let's say, dangerous for small and medium-sized enterprises. Caterina, you said that I have a question. I don't know. Yes, here. How high, low was the interest of SMEs in your training and awareness programs? So I can speak for Innovias, maybe then we can ask also the other projects, or maybe in the panel we will have this discussion. The interest is high. We have developed a program which is not only linked with energy consumptions. So at the beginning, we thought it could be tricky to involve SMEs. Instead, the interest has been very high because they understand that this is the direction in which we are going. They understand that the concept of green reputation is fundamental. And as I was saying, everything is now connected. So we have to consider the whole supply chain, and also the SMEs know that if they want to collaborate with big companies, with other SMEs, and to attract more clients, they have to pay attention to energy consumptions, materials used, and these kind of topics. So we've had a good answer to the training programs. Of course, it's not easy because the characteristics of the SMEs and the SMEs involved by Innovias are peculiar. But I think that the interest is raising in this regard. So thank you for the question. I hope I have answered. Do we have the answers? I have to stop sharing maybe. So, okay, the most voted answer is the lack of finance and the lack of knowledge. And we hope we are we have been in part able to answer to this lack of knowledge through the training programs, the lack of finance by demonstrating that even if the investment costs are high, there are different strategies and approaches that can be adopted. Lack of interest, of course, split incentives, the motivating policy framework. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Mara. Now is the time for Padray Lyons, who will explain the section about policies related with energy efficiency in Europe, focus on industry and small and medium enterprises and ways to improve it. Padray, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Okay, so as stated there, I'm going to be looking at how we can develop policies related with energy efficiency in Europe, focused on industry and SMEs, and ways we can improve them. So we currently have here in Ireland and across Europe, we have a number of different policies that are forcing SMEs, cajoling them down a particular path. We have the Energy Efficiency Directive of 2012 that was amended in 2018 as part of the Clean Energy Package for all Europeans. Within Europe, we have a target for a 32.5% reduction in energy consumption by 2030 for across the whole of the EU. And also we have Article 8, which is energy audits and energy management systems. We also have the Energy Performance of Building Directive of 2010. And this is looking to incentivize, support and enable buildings and the building of buildings across Europe to become highly efficient and ensure that we have a decarbonized building stock in the EU, because as we all probably know, about 37% of all emissions throughout the globe is due to buildings themselves. And this was amended in 2018. And as part of that programme, all new buildings must be near zero energy buildings from the 31st of December 2022. So that's all new buildings. Other buildings will have different requirements as to if there's major renovation works being put in place, then those buildings will need to be brought up to potentially NZEB standard as well. But there's different roadmaps for different types of buildings, public buildings, etc. Here in Ireland, we have the National Climate Action Plan. And this was previously known as the National Energy Efficiency Action Plan. And that's for the period of 2021 to 2030. And it's a 10-year integrated plan to achieve our 2030 targets here in Ireland. And as a matter of fact, that this plan is probably due to be revised in line with European legislation. This is due to be revised in November this year. So I believe our departments here in Ireland are furiously readying that. Now, lots of policies, lots of support and lots of legislation. What we have found though is that despite these policies, many SMEs have not had an energy audit in the last 5 years. They do not have an energy manager or energy policy and have implemented easy energy measures, energy conservation measures. And that indicates that people are somewhat in the dark. It's probably a lower priority with respect to other priorities within small business. They have, particularly in the context of COVID, etc., surviving as a business and ensuring that financials in place has probably taken priority over any other driver. But long term, we're beginning to see an exit out of COVID now, and we need policy to support energy efficiency in SMEs and address this huge challenge of our time. And so they're the key messages that we've taken. So we had a gap analysis at EU level. There's no quantitative targets for SMEs. There's no mandatory obligations for SMEs. And the 2020 target here in Ireland, for example, was quite clearly missed. Across Europe and into the national level, there's a varied transposition of the Energy Efficiency Directive, Article 8. There's a lack of financial support for SMEs, and that's something that came through to us, particularly on our Speedio work. My colleagues would probably point to this as to, you know, the lack of support to enable the adoption of energy conservation measures is really, really challenging. And the support limited to information. At a company level, there's a lack of resource, not only money, as we pointed to earlier, but time and knowledge. You know, if one is putting resources into somebody who's an energy policy manager, then that time can be allocated to maybe other more what could be considered business critical activities. Poor understanding of the multiple benefits of energy efficiency. So, you know, there is the financial benefit of energy efficiency, but the adoption of energy efficiency measures may have impacts on comfort in the building, the performance of the overall company, etc. And as I said, there's competing business priorities. So we're here today talking about, you know, within this discussion and this roundtable discussion, etc., we're talking about how SMEs can improve their energy efficiency performance. And these 7 projects are looking at different aspects, because it's well understood that SMEs are a rather heterogeneous grouping. The Speedio project looks at outsourcing of energy management and self-finance implementation through the ring fencing mechanism and reinvesting. SME Empower is create training programs that empower SMEs to implement energy efficiency measures by improving their knowledge and skills. Customizing innovative training approaches to meet the needs of a specific sector, which is the automotive Z2 driver. Innovias is work with industry associations to reach SMEs, build their internal capacity, and enhance energy culture. And culture is important, because if one doesn't have the culture in place, old habits can rebound. So you need to create that culture to embed certain energy conservation measures in the culture of an organization. DESME is enabling companies to manage the energy transition by taking profit of multiple benefits and energy management approaches. AAA is looking at standardized AAA tools, database and benchmarks to assess energy efficiency investments, setting the ground for building investors and project developers' confidence. And ICCEE, working with industry associations to reach SMEs to build their internal capacity and enhance that energy culture, creating free tools, e-learning and market platforms, etc. So, you know, we've just touched there on the different projects and what their focus is on, because as we said, there's a lot of different aspects to SMEs. You know, they're a hugely varied group. And this slide here is summarizing how the different projects, the different sister projects, are addressing the different barriers associated with the adoption of energy efficiency measures. So, for example, Speedio is looking at lack of time, lack of finance, poor understanding of energy efficiency, competing business priorities, a lack of external support for energy efficiency implementation, and only easy energy efficiency measures are implemented. So, doing the hard stuff, that's where the difficulties are. AAA, in contrast, is looking at the lack of finance, poor internal knowledge, poor understanding of multiple benefits of energy efficiency. And so every project is trying to look at different aspects so that we begin to develop a comprehensive set of tools, cultures, and internal mechanisms that can address the different aspects of the barriers that are inhibiting SMEs in adopting energy efficiency measures. And as you can see there from the previous slide, there's different aspects and different tools and approaches can address different elements of those. But the key thing to take away from this is that there's no singular approach will remove all the barriers to SMEs undertaking energy audits and implementing energy efficiency. So there's no silver bullet, just like every single aspect of decarbonization. You know, there's not going to be one single technology or concept or thought that is going to, you know, enable decarbonization across a whole swathe of areas within society. And so a combination of approaches and solutions are required. So there's not a one-size-fits-all approach, but combinations of approaches and solutions. But that's not to say that approaches in one sector may not be appropriate in another sector or could not be leveraged into another sector. With respect to recommendations for policymakers, we consider mandatory energy audits for SMEs. That would be really important to create a demand-driven market for both internal capacity building and external energy auditors. We encourage a range of support mechanisms to meet different needs. Information alone is not enough. SMEs need support through the implementation phase as well. We need to promote the multiple benefits of energy efficiency. As we touched on earlier, thermal comfort, staff health, increased value of buildings themselves, reduced maintenance of buildings, and brand image also have huge value for SMEs beyond just the simple savings that can be improved from implementing energy efficiency measures. Develop and promote suitable financial mechanisms for SMEs. And I think that this is something that comes through in all the projects that have been taking place under this program. Joined up tax incentives, grants, revolving funds, and energy tariff structures could all incentivize investment. But I suppose it's worth noting that these incentives and financial mechanisms need to be tailored for the different aspects of SME culture and SME activity and the different SME sectors. And the final one which we have here is that the training is required at all levels, including SME staff, energy experts, finance providers, and energy associations. So if any of those, if training or support is not provided for any of those cohorts within the SME ecosystem, it can have a negative impact on the delivery of the overall energy conservation measure or energy efficiency measure. Everybody needs to be aligned, and I suppose that's the thing to take away from that. So training needs to happen across all levels, and you know, it's not just a particular group. It's not the energy advisor within SME. The staff themselves need to be involved. You know, finance providers also need to be aligned in enabling all this. So it's not an easy thing to address, but you know, projects like the SME E2Drive, Speedier, etc., are taking little chunks out of the barriers and issues that are associated with decarbonising the SME sector and addressing those and putting in place, you know, and putting in place recommendations for policy and training, etc., that can enable the decarbonisation of the sector. So that's all from me from this morning. I suppose we could probably move on to maybe questions. So we have a poll here. So policies related with energy efficiency in the EU and ways to improve them. So the key thing here is, what energy policies for SMEs and the business sector do you find most useful or most successful? So what we're really looking for here is, if one is looking to prioritize different policies within the EU or even nationally, which ones are the ones that really support the decarbonisation of the sector? So we just might leave that run for maybe a minute. I'll just stop sharing mine, so that's all right. Okay, will we try for the results of the vote? Of the poll? Okay, so let's have a look there. Okay. While there was some support for energy management, ISO 50001, energy management, capacity building, voluntary agreements, etc. There does seem to be an overwhelming majority indicating that financial incentives and tax reductions are the most successful and the most efficient way of delivering decarbonisation of the sector. So I think that's resonating with what a lot of us have found across the different projects. So I might close that now. So I might return to the chair.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. So now is the time for the roundtable that will be moderated by Grigos Papagiannis from the SMM Power.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Eero. Welcome from my part also. And I'm very happy participating in this session because I think it's not so often to have really 7 projects together presenting their common findings, their common work, and their common results so far. So regarding our panel discussion, we have 3 excellent guests for you. Let me present them very, very shortly. Oops, sorry. We have Mr. Sterica Foudoulea. I hope I'm pronouncing correctly the names. He's General Secretary in the National Council of Private, Small and Medium Enterprises in Romania. We have Filippo Gasparin, who is Project Advisor in the European Climate, Infrastructure and Environment Executive Agency, CINEA, in Brussels. And we have Wojciech Stancik, who is expert and comes from the Polish National Energy Conservation Agency, KAPE, from Poland. So without any further ado, I would like to thank you first of all for participating in this round table. And I would like to start alphabetically from Mr. Foudoulea, who is actually the voice of the SMEs here. And I would like to have their say on the topic of the barriers. It was a long discussion in the presentations about the barriers that SMEs are facing in their way towards improving energy efficiency. I know that Romania is one of the front runners. You have done very good work through the years. You have financing tools. You have increased awareness in many SMEs. However, it seems that there are several barriers still. Financial barriers, lack of know-how, bureaucracy, other priorities from the SMEs. How these barriers actually affect the steps towards improving energy efficiency in SMEs, taking also into consideration that we are talking about an industrial transformation. It is also on the table towards Industry 4.0 and so on. Mr. Foudoulea.
Hello, everybody. I'm very glad to be with you today. Actually, it's okay, Sterica, not Sterica, but all my friends call me Stere. Okay. Because it's a short name, like my grandfather was. My grandfather was Stere, or like you use in Greece, Stereos. So it's the same roots, let's say. Okay, first of all, I want to tell you something regarding the Romanian, regarding our association. Romanian National Council of Small and Medium-Sized Private Enterprise was founded in '92. We are a 100% private organization. We represent Romanian employers. We are a confederation, one of the most representative in Romania. And what is most important thing that we have in our confederation, more than 98 associate members, different territorial or sectoral employers organization, young entrepreneurs and businesswomen association. And also we have 8 development regions in Romania. We have federation in these 8 regions. So we are organized in all the Romanian country. Regarding the discussion from today, I just saw something on the message here from somebody who have a very good right. entrepreneurs will not invest in something that will not recover the money in more than 3 to 5 years. So if we want to have a clean planet, if we want to invest in this field, we must use the non-refundable money. And for example, like this, we have some projects in Romania. One of the first one was Electric Up. It's a project when all the, let's say, some of the Horeca business entrepreneurs can receive 100,000 euro, 100% non-refundable money to invest, let's say, in solar energy. But the program more than 1 year ago, and time to time they ask some more papers. Until now, it's not finished. So let's say one point that you said regarding the bureaucracy, even we try to improve the let's say the law, because the Minister of Economy who made this program was our colleague, was Vice President of Industry in our organization, and now it's a Minister of Energy. So he knows very well how to push this kind of thing. Even of this, it's 1 year, so we don't receive money. Second project that we have now in Romania, will be a program when we receive, the program will be from 50,000 to 1 million euro to it's a program from investment. In this program will be 90 to 95% of non-refundable money. And the entrepreneurs must invest at least 20% of this to the green energy, let's say. I don't know, if you want to make a factory, you must build, let's say, a building, green building. If you want to make service, let's say, like I'm living in closer to Danube Delta, and the main business is service tourism area from Danube Delta. If you want to invest something in these fields, you must buy electric boats or electric car. So you can invest in this. If you want to have much more investor in this field, we must use this non-refundable money. But like you just say, we must have we must not have this bureaucracy. Actually, I want to give you the example. I come back to the Electric Cup. The apply of the program was very easy. We used to have a program or application form, I don't know, 8 to 10 steps. So that's it. But now we have 1 year that they ask more papers because let's say the connection between the investor and the national energy system, it's very hard. It's not regarding a problem of the Minister of Economy or Energy, but it's regarding the law who rule, let's say, the energy fields in Romania. That's why. Now they improve and they make a change of this area. But what I want to tell you, in the SMEs area, most of them want to have, let's say, more green tools. If we discuss about the car, the boats, the building, and so on. So it's what is the most important thing, that the SMEs knows that we must invest in this area, but we must be helped by the money from the European Union, non-refundable money. So this is more or less the idea. Otherwise, we are entrepreneurs. We think like this. We invest now 1,000 euro when we receive back the profit. 3 to 5 years. It was very good. What said comment? Yes.
Comment. Yeah. So, okay. So awareness is here. The tools they are establishing eventually. You need one-stop shop, let's say, for implementation, and this is a good practice. Although most of what you have described, I have seen this episode many times in many countries. Yeah. Okay. Now let's move to the other side of the hill. Let's go to Brussels. Filippo Gasparin works since many years with SMEs. We have now a new recast of the Energy Efficiency Directive, which has been published very recently. The famous Article 8 is now Article 11, but nevertheless, besides the provision for energy-intensive enterprises, regardless of their size, for the big number of SMEs, it remains the same. It says that we must use programs to encourage SMEs to undergo energy audits and subsequent implementation of energy measures resulting from audits. Now, I guess that in all the funded projects from SMEs, these 7 we presented and several others, we managed, I think, to do many things in capacity building and also in increasing awareness, not only for energy efficiency, but also for financing tools, for multiple benefits and so on. What are the next steps nowadays, from now on? Because now you are ready to launch the Clean Energy Transition Program in the life, and what are we to expect from now on?
Thank you very much, Grigoris. And good morning, everyone, also from my side. So let me start by saying that I really reckon that with the EU Green Deal, we have a unique opportunity to support the clean energy transition of our EU companies. And as you know, the EU Green Deal is basically the European agenda for energy and climate, which is aiming at reaching a carbon neutrality by 2050. And it also sets a milestone in 2030 to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 55%. So I do think that already with this long-term vision, companies are starting more and more to realize that investing in sustainable measures is not good only for the environment, but is good also for them to improve their market position and even to become more attractive for the investors, because becoming more sustainable means also reducing the risks associated to their activities. So as you may know, under this current programming period, so that goes from 2021 to 2027, a new sub-program has been created and added to the LIFE program, which is exactly as Grigoris mentioned, the Clean Energy Transition sub-program, which is basically with these programs, we are trying to support the market uptake of energy efficiency measures and the renewables within different layers of the society, because we are addressing households, buildings, local authorities, and indeed the industry. So in a sense, I mean, with this Clean Energy Transition program, it is really the successor of very useful programs such as the Intelligent Energy Europe or the energy efficiency part of Horizon 2020 that has basically supported and financed the projects that are here today represented. And in this context, we have now 18 topics that are currently open with a deadline on the 12th January 2022. And among these topics, there are 2 that are very relevant for the industry and very relevant also for the participants of today's event. One is on energy audit and supporting the actual implementation of the recommended measures. So here the idea is really to keep supporting the development of capacity building programs. I mean, we have seen also before with the poll that one of the perceived barrier is really the informational gap. So the idea to keep supporting the development of capacity building programs that are targeting both managerial and staff at operational level is crucial, and we will keep supporting this. But also we would like to support the delivery on the market of an integrated service. So basically supporting a third party, which might be an ESCO, to take care from the implementation of the energy audits to the implementation of some measures. So in a one-stop shop, as Grigoris mentioned and referred earlier. And then indeed, the second topic is about sustainable value chain. We heard in the previous presentation made by Mara that we are living in an interconnected world. So with this second topic, we are really trying to facilitate the collaboration between large companies and SMEs that are operating the same value chain to climate-proof the whole value chain, actually. So the idea here is really to finance projects that are developing innovative business model to make this collaboration happen. So this is in a nutshell, basically.
Thank you very much, Filippo. Very interesting information for those who are engaged in the topic. And let's go to Wojciech now. Wojciech, as an expert in an energy agency, you actually facilitating SMEs to proceed with energy audits and then with the implementation of measures. SMEs, they are the backbone actually of most economies, and they are very dispersed in sizes. They are medium, small, very small, micro SMEs, and so on. So actually, what would you say is one good practice to, let's say, walk the distance from the energy audit to energy measures implementation, according to your opinion?
Hello, good morning for everyone from my side. Thank you, Grigoris, for the question and for the invitation to this panel. As you mentioned, I think the SMEs are quite specific group because of the variety that we meet. So I would say there is no one dedicated solution that works with everybody. I think for SMEs, there is a lot that can be done. However, you have to look at the experiences that you already had in your country with the SMEs and try to work specifically with the dedicated problems that you're facing now. One maybe good guideline for every country, for a group, for those smaller SMEs that you mentioned, because we always think about companies as those big high energy intensive industries, but it's not always the case. Those smaller SMEs have also a big untapped potential, and actually in numbers they could amount to almost the same number of employees or people involved in this kind of structures. So one advice that I heard before, and I think works very well if you try to set up policies dedicated to this smaller group, is that to treat them similar to households, to very small communities, because then you kind of see the typical problems of this kind of SMEs that they face, a typical way they look at energy. So if you look at the very small SMEs, similar to the households, and you try to adapt your policies in a similar way, then it works quite well for this type of sector.
Thank you, Wojciech. Since we have time, I would suggest to go for another round where I will ask all of you to make a commentation on what has been discussed globally overall. But I would like also to put another topic on the table, on the discussion, regarding the question that was set previously during the presentations about the willingness of SMEs to participate in the various activities of the projects. I have quite a different picture than the one Mara presented. There was reluctance from the SMEs because facing the COVID-19 situation, they were anxious about their financial survival. So energy efficiency was not their highest priority at this period of time. Now we are eventually going out of this situation. So what will be the next day? Perhaps you can add a comment on this. So Stere, once again, the floor is yours.
I wasn't fully attentive. So how was the question? Because somebody called me.
Yes. Sorry, we just talked about the steps from energy audits to implementation. What will be the next day regarding the tools from the European Union, and also after the COVID-19 situation, the SMEs are coming out and they suffered a lot, and perhaps some of them are struggling to survive financially. So what's the next day? Energy efficiency is high in their priorities or very low, or what?
First of all, they will want to let's say to survive. to keep their business alive. Actually, we made a lot of questionnaire in our association, and most of them tell us that in the next year we will close the business around 6 to 10% from the company from Romania. So it's higher number of closing businesses, but most of them are in the field of SMEs, let's say business family, not more than 9 employees, so 0 to 9. But if they will have some support to receive some non-refundable money, because this is the idea, to improve their spending in their bills, because we know in these days the bill of energy and the gas it's rising up, it's going too fast. So this growing of the
a good environment for investments in energy efficiency.
Yes, it was good to invest 1 year ago.
So now it's even better,
because we'll have 1 year to invest, and maybe after 1 year they establish the price will be fixed. So that's why most of the time we came with the solution after the crisis. We must have the solution before the crisis. We must analyze what will happen in the next year and to come with the solution from surviving businesses. Because most of you knows that the SMEs invest all their fortune, all their money to keep alive their own businesses. But now in the last, let's say 2 years, we have COVID, we lose some clients, and now we receive the rising up, the higher prices of energy and the gas. So I don't know what will be next, because it will be very hard for us to survive to the next year. We are now, let's say, more or less like in the war, and we know that all the wars it's keep alive more than 4 years. So we survive to the first 2 years. We have 2 more years to survive in this war that we have it now, because if you want to say it is like a war that we have it. So during this time, it's very hard to survive the small businesses. Only the biggest one survive because they have their own money and they can keep alive the businesses.
Mm-hmm. Nevertheless, threats create also opportunities. And so, Filippo, what's your say about this?
Yeah, indeed. I mean, this issue on how we can bridge the gap between the energy audit results and their actual implementation is indeed a crucial one. I can say that at CINEA, we have recently published a study where we have assessed more than 40 projects, all of which were trying to support the implementation of energy efficiency measures in companies. And we have clearly seen that on average, the energy savings achievable through an energy audit are relatively low, because we are talking about 4 or 5%. We know that often the lack of time, capital, and resources prevent companies from implementing this type of measures. But we also know, and this you might become surprised to see that how many great business plans there are behind these many energy efficiency measures with a very low payback of 3-4 years, and still measures are not implemented. So this will lead to the fact that it is not really sometimes an issue related to the trainings or the financing, but is from our side an issue related to the fact that energy efficiency as a whole is not considered perceived by the company as a strategic investment. And here comes to play the issue about the multiple benefits and how basically we can, and companies should somehow link the implementation of energy efficiency measures with the value proposition of their company. This is something that we should further investigate, but I think it is a meaningful tool that can leverage indeed the uptake of these measures.
Thank you, Filippo. And
if I can say something,
yes, of course.
I just remember that we have now the program from 2021, 2027. In Romania today, we even don't have the programs yet finished. So we have for the next 6 months to write the program using this, let's say, energy saving ideas to have much more non-refundable money to the investment in this field. So I will write to them to use this. Even like I just told you, will be the next program in 1 month will be ready to go, and they already write it that 20% of the investment must go to the green energy, the green field. So they know this. We have this opportunity now, but.
Yes,
I hope we will use it.
I know. Many stakeholders in Romania, they are already active in searching consortia to participate in proposals to get some funding on this. So it has started already. It has been launched. It has been disseminated. So I think that Wojciech, what do you think about all this overall?
Yes, I just wanted to say that I think both other guests mentioned very important issues about the multiple benefits and about having the investments done a year ago would be the most profitable ones now. And having that said, I would say that what we could also add to this puzzle is the experience sharing, because what we say now, so the multiple benefits, how we benefited from the implementation of energy efficiency, how the project done a year ago is actually the best project that we could have done, is the best way to support SMEs and to show them that the energy efficiency is actually something that will improve their value chain and it should be in the core interest of their strategy. So I think bringing the examples is always something that we see mentioned by both the SMEs and the policy side that works very well. And I think these two are just examples of how this could actually help, and especially in this time that the COVID is less impactful on the enterprises, and we'll have this time to benefit from the measures, and showing them that energy efficiency is a way to make more profit and to develop and grow their enterprise. I think is just a perfect fit to the time that we have.
Thank you, Wojciech. Actually, on this track, this is why we collaborated all these projects together, just to share good practices, to share solutions, to see what are measures, activities that have success in one project, to not to reinvent the wheel. Because I think that most of the participants may have another session to attend, and I fully respect your time. I would like, first of all, to thank my guests for their participation in this panel discussion. Also to thank all of you that you actually devoted 1.5 hours of your precious time to this session. I hope that the messages that came out of the presentation of the work of these 7 EU-funded projects are quite interesting. And so I will pass once again the floor to Eru for a closure.
Okay, so thank you very much for attending to this event. I just would like to remind that this event was performed in the context of the Sustainable Energy Week, and that we have the participation of the 7 projects founded by the European Fund Horizon 2020. So thank you very much, all of you, for your participation and for attending to this event.
Goodbye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.